In 1859, the English naturalist Charles Darwin published evidence that talked about how species evolve or change over time. This theory of evolution took decades and a long time and a lot of observations and experiments until it was thought of. When Darwin was younger, he struggled in school. His father was a rich doctor and wanted Darwin to become either a doctor or a minister. Darwin was not interested in becoming either of those. He spent most of his time outside. At the age of 16, he was sent to medical school in Edinburgh, Scotland. He did not like medical school, so he often skipped class to go to collect biological specimens. Then, in 1827, Darwin's father sent him to Cambridge University in England to study to be a minister. Then, in 1831, one of his professors recommended him for a job as a naturalist on the voyage of HMS Beagle. At the young age of 22, he set sail on an adventure that would change his life forever and how we think of ourselves. During the time Darwin was alive, people believed that animals never changed or evolved. But in 1809, Lamarck proposed a hypothesis for how organisms change over time. He stated that over a lifetime, animals' physical features increase in size or reduce in size because of disease. This hypothesis is now known to be incorrect. When Darwin was on the Beagle voyage, he challenged the traditional belief that specimens do not change over time. He saw things that he thought could only be explained through gradual change. For example, he found fossils of extinct armadillos in South Africa that looked similar but not exactly like the armadillos living in the area. Darwin also visited the Galapagos Islands. Darwin noticed that a lot of the animals on the island looked like the animals on the nearby coast of South America. He later suggested that these animals migrated to the island from South America long ago and that their appearance changed after they arrived on the islands. He called this change descent with modification, or what we know today as evolution. Once he returned from the islands, he continued to study plants and animals, and his belief that organisms had evolved grew stronger, but he was still confused on how evolution happened. The key to helping Darwin understand how evolution takes place was an essay that was written by an English economist, Thomas Malthus. His essay talked about the fact that human populations do not grow unchecked because the human population dies as a result of disease, war, and famine, which slows how fast a population grows. In biology, a population refers to not only the human population, but groups of populations of all living individual species that live in specific areas across the world and are able to breed or have babies. Darwin now believed that populations can produce many offspring or children, but only the strong survive. Darwin then came up with the theory of natural selection, stating that people who have physical and behavioral traits that better suit their environment where they live will be more likely to survive. Eventually, since the individuals with the better traits continue to reproduce and the individuals with the less desirable traits do not, the better characteristics or traits will be passed on to future generations, resulting in evolution. When species evolve, they develop adaptations, which is a trait that gives them a selective advantage to survive in their environment. Darwin then wrote a book about his theory titled On the Origin of Species by Means of Natural Selection. His book then made 4 main points. This first point was that all populations have different genes that can be passed on to their offspring. The second point he made stated that some species have better traits and characteristics, so they will survive in their environment and produce more babies with that trait. And this is the ideal of natural selection. The third point he made was that traits that help the population survive over time will spread to all offspring. And the last point he made was that there is a lot of evidence from fossils that living species have changed or evolved from organisms that are now extinct.